Welcome to another episode of Bourbon and Data Breaches, where we cover 5 of the most interesting breaches from this last week. I'm Steve.
I'm Connor. I'm Frank.
This week we have batteries, bobcats, and a bunch of breaches. Let's jump right in. Starting up with story number 1, Maxwell Asia. The same brand that made cassette tapes cool in the 80s now supplies power gear across APAC. Apparently, Ransom House wants to unplug them, exposing engineering docs and partner data. Basically, your headphones and backup batteries might be getting cyberbullied.
I think that's actually more Maxwell.
What'd I say?
Maxwell?
Oh, these are the ones that make batteries. So, Maxwell. There you go.
We see where your head's at. It's a big brand with lots of trust. It's care about. The first signs probably won't be flashy emails, internal docs, routine files that should be public, and so on. But this kind of leak still hurts because it shows how the house is run. Media will jump fast because the name is well known, of course.
Quite a bit of supply chain disruption implications here. When you look at Maxwell Asia and heavy hand in the consumer electronics, consumer tech industry. So you can imagine, depending on what kind of data is involved, could have some disruptions in that industry, which is obviously a very large one. And this also proves us that even batteries can get drained by ransomware.
Maxwell was allegedly ransomed by Ransom House, and they do have a reputation of not lying about their victims. So we'll have to see how that one develops. Moving on to story number 2, we've got Power Health, a company that supports hospitals and surgeons, now allegedly supporting ransomware payloads. WorldLeaks says they stole confidential medical and insurance data, which is the ransomware version of a HIPAA violation on steroids.
Yeah, so I think this was, you said WorldLeaks, so I believe used to be Hunters that they rebranded. But again, anytime healthcare is impacted, like you said, HIPAA implications, which could lead to lawsuits, right? Directly impact patients, insurance, et cetera. So big rooms of these kind of events, trust issues as well, right? As there always is with kinds of events. So you could see potential patients having risk of identity thefts. Again, this is not just about network compromise, but this is a direct attack on patients' privacy, safety. And I personally don't like to see these attacks on healthcare.
Healthcare claims always make people nervous, and you can picture plenty of reasons for it. If this one's true, the bleeding will be slow and expensive. I picture notices, lawyers, and a lot of cleanup to be made. What shows up first, if anything, is usually email and shared folders, not the core medical system everyone imagines. Patients don't really care about technical details rather than their private info floating out there. Same case, this is WorldLeaks. They usually go serious on their claim.
Moving right along to story number 3. I like this one, or I like the company. Story number 3 is Bobcat Central, which I just think is a great business. They have all the bobcats, I assume. Bobcat Central, not the feline. Bobcat Central, the equipment dealership moving skid steers and mini excavators across California. Kira Ransomware says they've leaked internal docs and employee info. So if you rented a bulldozer recently, congrats. Your VIN and social might be in a zip file.
So yeah, this is the Bobcat. An equipment dealer isn't flashy as a healthcare org or an electronics monster like Merck's. But anyway, this is Bobcat. And it still can be ugly if they were exposed. We can think of invoices, ID scans, maybe paperwork, which may be boring on paper, but on here, actually really brutal. If you think about it, Akira is talking about a big pile of documents, which they sometimes deliver, sometimes not, depending on the outcome of negotiations. Customers will notice before a press release does. We can expect phone calls and account checks long before a clean statement. So if you're involved, you'll want to keep an eye out on leak page for updates.
To your point, Frank, while equipment manufacturing is not that flashy, there's still impacts here. We have the business side and the consumer side. A lot of large construction firms are working with this organization to rent equipment, to repair equipment. If they can't get the parts they need to repair equipment they have, that can lead to issues. On the consumer side, there's a lot of personal financial information that goes into leasing or buying heavy equipment, and that could also be compromised.
This one is an interesting one. Pam Gold Management. Crypto24 hit Pam Gold Management in Malaysia, an investment and finance firm. The name Crypto24 sounds like a startup, but surprise, it's actually a cyber gang with a gift for robbing spreadsheets. Here's their website. There's not a lot going on in this website, so I don't know what Crypto24 hit.
Yeah, I think it's Palm Gold Management, but yeah, Palm Gold Management and Crypto24 kind of sounds like something straight out of a James Bond film or something of that nature. But yeah, like you said, not a lot going on the Palm Gold website. They claim to be in the consulting space for casinos. So you can imagine potential casino financial information, member records, PII, maybe gambling history. That could be a big deal for a lot of reasons based on what they do. 500 gigabytes of data is a lot, but there's a deep compromise of what Palm Gold does here. We'll see what comes of this, but it's not just spreadsheets. This could be the kind of data that could lead to mass scams, corporate espionage, legal nightmares. Never good when it comes to anything financial, and casinos typically, right, working with a lot of high net worth individuals and a lot of people's money and sensitive information.
Yeah, I gotta agree with that. I'm taking a look at the Crypto24 blog, and here we have huge number being thrown around with hundreds of gigs. Of course, that sells drama, even though it doesn't prove anything because sometimes that size is just copies and junk. Sometimes it's payroll, finance, and mailboxes, the kind of expensive stuff, the good stuff.
You got to wonder what the storage costs are for these ransomware gangs. Even on a small victim, they're getting 500 gigs. Even if it's crap, Frank, it's a lot of crap.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
All right. Our last story today, Homey Law Center. This is Delaware's Homey Law Center that got paired, not the fruit. Pear ransomware, which stands for pure extraction and ransom. They allegedly grabbed financials, HR records, and case files. That's a full attorney-client dumpster fire.
Law firms are high risk because the data is personal and the stories run themselves. We can expect client names, case files, and inbox threads to be the first wave. Local news move fast when the victims are people, not just systems. Look for retainer letters, court paperwork, or email slices with clear names and dates. Notifications will follow in a hurry. Exposure of sensitive legal communications and client data could result in malpractice lawsuits, reputational harm, and disbarment level drama.
I like how fruit is getting identities, right? So like Apple is laptops, orange, telecommunication, pear, ransomware. Somehow pear went bad, ransomware gangs.
Yeah.
We're going to have to see what
The
happens.
rotten one.
Yeah, we're going to have to see what happens with blueberry.
Maybe that's because nobody really likes pears.
Hey, that's not fair. Pears are great.
Like pears.
Some state grows pear and they're offended.
This is attorney-client confidentiality. When you think about law firms, it's all about entrusting your lawyer with highly sensitive information. This paired lead site listing looks like a legal library on fire. Closed and active case files, client private data, PII, maybe PHI, case evidence. That's about as sensitive as it can get. Whenever you go back to the attorney-client confidentiality, that can lead to not only right? Identity issues for the clients, but also a major loss in trust in their law firm. So again, very, very big impacts here, and not something we like to see.
The implication is that the ransomware gang could go after the clients. And if they have sealed records that they threaten to unseal, they could do another extortion. If they release evidence and opinions on evidence that was not publicly known, could create new lawsuits, both civil and criminal. So lots of concerns whenever you have private legal documents allegedly going to be released or in the hands of not the lawyer. In just 1 week, we saw ransomware hit batteries, backhoes, biopsies, banks, and barristers. Remember, patch early, backup often, and never trust a ransomware gang named after a fruit. Until next time. You see I got my DEF CON shirt?
Nice, Mark.
I'll wear mine next